Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is another little thing that I usually don't do, but I guess we're gonna rip off a certain geek and grifter. It's a car video. So, just got out of Mission Impossible Fallout. I mean, not Mission Impossible Fallout. Dead Reckoning Part 1. Part 1. It's a two-parter. It's good. Really good. I actually enjoyed it a lot. Tom Cruise once again and Chris McQuarrie once again do a really good job delivering a pretty fucking awesome action movie. There's no bullshit, there's no nonsense. They actually Top Gun 2 before it, they have a little thing where it's McQuarrie and Tom Cruise saying, hey, thank you for coming to the theater, we make these for you, which is good. That's actually something that I kind of wish most Hollywood would learn, but I mean, I ain't saying anything new here. It's rant for another day. So, for the film, what I like to address first is the length. Now, despite being part 1 of a two-parter movie, it is clocks in around 2 hours and 40 some odd minutes. And to be honest, and I have heard some people make criticism of the length and saying that it could be 20 minutes shorter. I agree, but it's not bloated by any means. It doesn't feel like it's overly long. The scenes that are there do play a purpose. The scenes that are there do play a role. I would make the argument that near the beginning, nearly beginning exposition with Kittrix, who returns after many years. We haven't seen him since the first film, where he kind of demonstrates and pretty much lays it all out for us of who or what the baddie is and what it does. And this is something very different from the other films, even though it has the same formula. The enemy is basically like an AI, and I will get to that in a minute. But I do think the beginning could have benefited if it was whittled down a little bit. I do feel like it was a tad bit longer than it should have. Just whittled down a few seconds from the scenes, because I do feel like there were some pauses that somewhat extended the scenes a little bit longer than they needed to be. Even though I do think the scenes are good and does lead to a really good Ethan Hunt reveal, and it's probably one of the cooler ones that, to be honest. But I will definitely say Fallout's switcheroo near the beginning, I think, is just stronger, in my opinion at least. I might have to watch this film a second time to see if I can get more and maybe watch Fallout again, because I have binged these films recently, but that was a while ago. So I might rewatch Fallout and this film back to back and actually see which one's stronger, because to me, I think Fallout is the stronger film, but that's neither here nor there. But to get back to it, the action is awesome. It's fucking great. It's awesome seeing Ilsa come back, and she plays a bit of a role. Granted, it is, spoiler not spoiling, she isn't in the film that much, and judging from the trailers, it's kind of obvious what happens. And this happens near the midway point in the film. I'm not going to say what happens, but I'm pretty sure you would have figured it out, like I already figured it out, because I already speculated it was going to happen to her just from how the film was marketed, because you barely see her in the film, save two scenes at least. But the opening action scene that she is introduced in is pretty awesome. The chase scene, I think, is really fucking cool, and actually is pretty damn funny as well. Ethan and the woman who plays Agent Carter in the, if you would recognize her as Agent Carter in the MCU, she also does a good job here. That chase scene they're in, and the little car they have, that's actually really funny and really exciting. It's actually pretty well done. Granted, I am gonna sound like a bit of a dick here. I think Fallout had the better chase, and I think it mostly because of the intensity of it, where, and I might have to do like a back-to-back like examination of it, where the lack of music in Fallout actually helped it a bit, and it added to the seriousness of the scene. There was very little like comedy interspersed in that action sequence as opposed to this one. And I'm not trying to say the comedy is what made it worse. I'm just saying that the seriousness in Fallout made it better, and I will also say that there was a lot more close calls in Fallout's chase sequence that I think was actually much cooler. And arguably, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, I might have to do a back to back. I have to wait till this thing comes out and actually see. I think Fallout's is a little bit longer in a way, but there is obviously like a little break in between, like when they get to Lane and when they get to the boat and when they get to the car, like there's your little break there. But when they get Lane in the car and the sequence continues, and then you see like it's Ilsa trying to kill him, like there you have your tension and you have your drama, and it's almost pitch perfect. And the fact that there's like little dialogue other than Lane noticing that was Ilsa, so that adds to the weight as opposed to here, which it is a good scene. It's just me like comparing like two really great action sequences, like in all honesty. But again, this is a personal thing. Like, this is just me fresh out of the theater, to be honest. Now, and again, this ain't really structured like at all. I'm just gonna frank. I'm just jumping point to point. Now the villain, or at least our villain in flesh, Gabriel. I think he's pretty good. Granted, it does do the bullshit thing that I hate in writing, where it does this. He's tied to Ethan's past, but he was only introduced in this film. So there is a little, somewhat of a retcon to Ethan's character, that Gabriel does play a massive role in his life. That he has killed a previous love of Ethan. Someone that we haven't known. And it's quite clear we're going to get more, because we get like flashbacks a bit, but it's not really elaborating on, and it's more likely they're saving this for part 2. So I personally don't really know. I might hold off a bit more on that, because like, again, who knows what they're saving for the second part when that comes out. So we'll see. I don't know if all my criticisms are going to hold water, but I think Gabriel is a serviceable villain. He did do a good job. He does deliver the fact that he is a threat. You get that point across. The actress who plays Mantis in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, she also plays like his hench woman. And funny enough, I think it was Jeremy Johns who said that she is a character out of John Wick that they introduced into this film, and he is not entirely wrong. She is very much a John Wick character. The way she looks and is dressed is very much something of that world. It's quite clear Chris McCrory just was someone inspired by some of the villains we got, like like Ruby Rose's character in Chapter 2, but like mostly due to the fact of how this character, the henchwoman, is dressed like she's wearing makeup, and she has like the skirt in a few scenes. When Mission Impossible arguably is a lot more grounded than that, but like grounded in quote unquote, but you get what I mean. It is never too stylized, if you know what I mean. But she does a great job with what she's given. Yeah, she hasn't given that much dialogue. She's mostly speaking French the entire film, and I think she's really good. She again is also does her stunts and does her scenes incredibly well. Fight choreography, again to mention, is on point, like it always is. Now, let's get to the actual villain of this film, which is kind of funny, like seeing some people say it's kind of topical to talk about, and bringing in this film, and they're not really wrong, and it's an AI. And I'm just going to be up and blunt and say it, it's the Puppet Master from Ghost in the Shell, if you know what I mean. And if you've watched Ghost in the Shell, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was originally a program that gained consciousness, that gained sentience, that went rogue. And it's using algorithms, using like different, it's like learning of people, learning of like how people act, their past experiences, their wants, their needs, their likes, their dislikes, to basically change how the future progresses. So in a way, it is somewhat like a merger between like the idea of evil from Berserk, using causality, and the Puppet Master from Ghost in the Shell. It's kind of a merger of those two, using things such as like causality to its massive, like put everything in its favor, and to make sure that it wins, and using all probability and possibility, so that it controls the world in some aspect. And Gabriel is working with this entity. Now, what the McGuffin of this movie is basically, well, technically two McGuffins, but it is two pieces of a key that allows like whoever like wheels it to like unlock something in in an abandoned submarine, that will in said submarine actually like gains the wielder the power to control the AI, or the entity as it's regarded in the film. Now, I would say it's serviceable enough. I would say that it's not, albeit it's familiar, the little structure. It's like Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise needs to get this thing that matters, you know. We've pretty much, if you're a fan of Mission Impossible, like in general, like you've like pretty much like already like are familiar with this formula, which is fine. It's worked, and it's different enough from the previous films that it's like, it doesn't feel too samey. It's not Michael Bay, it's not J.J. Abrams bullshit. So yeah, but yeah, like overall, I think the film is actually really decent. Again, it is actually pretty cool that Kittredge comes back after the first film. So he's been like missing for pretty much like like 5 films now. And it's kind of interesting seeing him show up in this film and being once again the antagonist. And from like, and the big funny difference between him and this film and him in the first film, where he wasn't really much of a bad guy in the first film. He was mostly just doing his job because like his job was to bring Ethan in. While in this film, he's very much the villain, or at least a villain, clearly. And it's quite clear, judging from the end of the film, we're going to see more of him. Now, the climax of the film, I think, is really good. Not as nail-bitingly, like, suspenseful as Fallout's, and I really hate making comparisons to everything to Fallout, but I would say that the climax, the third act of Fallout, is much stronger. I think Ethan getting on top of the helicopter and him flying the helicopter to meet up with Lane was actually like, and the fight that happened afterwards on top of the mountain, I thought was actually much stronger, and I thought had a lot like more suspense than the final act in this film. I might say that's a me thing. I'm gonna be honest, this is mostly opinion based rather than me trying to be objective, because it's been a while since I've like watched like these movies back to back. I think it's been like a few weeks now, but I do like the train sequence is good, and even though the film doesn't really cap off with this final like badass fight scene, it actually caps off with Ethan and Agent Carter trying not to get thrown off this train. Trying not to get thrown off this runaway train, and them jumping from car to car, which is actually really well done. But yeah, like other than that, like I do think the film is really solid. I think it's really good. I am looking forward to part two. Knowing Chris McQuarrie and Tom Cruise, they pretty much deliver it like out of the park, pretty much like so far, like every time. So I'm looking forward to the next film. Even though, granted, I am wondering how they're going to stretch just Ethan Hunt trying to get to a submarine. To, whether or not that's topical. Ethan trying to get to a submarine to an entire film. I, for one, am looking forward to it regardless. There have been other films that have stretched out like similar concepts or simple concepts to entire films. So, regardless of that, I am looking forward to it. So those are pretty much like my thoughts onto the film. So yeah. I'll catch you guys later. Stay chill, Wanderers.